Welcome to the Synthetic Division video. My name is Ashley Tavis and I'm one of the co-founders of csinmath.org. In this video, students and teachers will create a program that will perform synthetic division to check if a root is a solution or not. Let's get started. So right away what you'll see on the screen is I have just created some sprites here. We'll notice this first sprite, as I come down here, I can paint a new sprite. If I come into costumes, I used text, I used lines, and so forth to create this layout, as you can see is the layout of synthetic division. I also imported an arrow here, as I'm going to show that this number is going to drop down very first when we perform this operation. So what we're going to do here to start is we are going to be creating a ton of variables. The first variables we need are our potential zero, or our potential root. We need the coefficients of the x cubed, x squared, x, and the constant here. Now keep in mind we could create a polynomial of any length. I chose to use a cubic polynomial here. So we'll start in our variables here, and I'm going to create, we'll call it the zero. This will be my x cubed, x squared, x, and c will be my constant. Oops. Great. All right, now if we come back to the right-hand side of the screen, we'll see these have all appeared. Now I'm going to arrange these orderly. If I double-click, or if you two-finger tap right-click, you can see there's different layouts. I like this large layout here, and I'm going to drag this over where my c value would be. This is the coefficient to my x, the coefficient to my x squared, and the coefficient to my x cubed. Now my zero typically lies here outside. So what we need to do first as we start our program is ask for all of these values so that we can perform synthetic division. So if I come into sensing and I begin the program by asking, what is your potential zero? Whatever this user types in is going to be stored in this answer block, but we want whatever they type in to be stored into our variable zero. So we're going to come back to variables and we're going to set 0 to their answer. Now notice how this will work. As I run my program, what is your potential 0? Let's say it's 2, hit enter, and it's stored here. So we need to do the same thing for all 4 of these variables as well. So if I right click and duplicate, it's a little bit quicker. I'm going to say what is the coefficient of x cubed? And we'll set x cubed to that value. What is the coefficient of x squared? We'll set x squared to that value. What is the coefficient of x? Set x to this value. And finally, what is the constant? And we'll set c to this value. Super, so if we were to run through this, now each of these pieces will be stored here. So the next piece, and we could do this in our main code, but I suggest using a function here as this is great conversation with students. So if I come down to my blocks and I hit make a block, I'm going to type in here, let's type in calculate. There you go, and you can see what I've typed in. And I'm going to hit OK, move myself back here. And you'll notice 2 blocks have appeared. We've got one up here that says define, and we have one here. So the define block, anything I put under here is what's going to happen when I call this function. But I'm only calling my function as I set this in my code. So what do we want to happen as we click this block? Well, first off, we need a handful of other variables. And let's go ahead and set these up. So first thing we need is, we need my value of x cubed here to drop all the way down. And I'm going to call this, we'll say x33, to note that it's going to be in that column. Now I'll drag this down and I'll put this value here. So next we're going to need a variable here as well as here, and these are in my x2 columns. So I'm going to say x22 and x222. Again, you can choose whatever names you want here as their variables. Double click this one, I'll go here. We got a lot of variables for this operation. Okay, now my x column, we'll go ahead and call it xx, xxx. I'm gonna lie these here. Wonderful, and then I've got my constant, and we need one more, we'll call it cc. And my last one, we could call ccc if we wanted to finish the pattern, but I'm gonna call this the remainder. I'm gonna plot this here. Great. Okay, so for my operations here, what we start with is we need to set our x33 to the value above. So this should just be the same. So we're going to set, and why don't we just do this in our main code? Let's set x33, as soon as they type in x3, we can set x3 to the answer as well as x33 to the answer. So it's actually going to be putting it here both places as they type in this value. Okay, the next piece we need to do is we need to multiply our 0 by our x33. So operators is where we can find this. We'll multiply. So we will multiply our potential 0, let's see, here it is, 0 times our value of x33. And we need to set that value here, which we have labeled x22. Great. Okay, so now that we have a value here, we need to take this value plus this value to come down here. So we need our operators, and we're going to take x2 plus x22, and we're going to set this to x222. Now this gets a little bit confusing with all these variables, but again, you can name them what works for you. So now we've programmed this, and we've programmed this. The next piece is to take my x222 times my 0 and put it in my x column. So we're going to multiply again. We need our 0 times x222, and we're going to set this to xx. Then I need to add x plus xx to give me xxx. So I'm going to add here x, oops, with xx, and we're going to set this value to x, xx, x, so many x's. There we go, add these things together. Great. Okay, so now a couple more steps. We're going to multiply my 0 times my xxx. We can start to see the pattern here, of course. 0 times my xxx. And I'm going to set my cc value to this value here. Now we're getting very close. We're going to add c with cc and set my remainder to this piece. So we should have our numbers in here working. We've multiplied, then added, multiply, added, multiply, added to get my remainder. Super. Okay, so all this did was define what my function's doing. We have not called it. So if I come back to my blocks and I put calculate at the very bottom here, here's where I want to calculate these values. Now to finish out the program, we want to display to our user if the 0 that they are hoping is a solution or not. So to finish this out, we're going to say we're looking at a remainder. And we know if our remainder is 0, this is going to be a solution. If it is not 0, it is not a solution. So we can simply come in here and we can go to the equal sign. Where are you? Here you are. If the remainder is equal to 0, then we need to share that it is a factor of the polynomial. So I'm going to use a join block here because I want to join a variable with some text. So we're going to say the 0 is a factor of the polynomial. I'm going to just right-click duplicate this, because if it is not 0, so it is not true, we'll say it is not a factor of the polynomial. And this is our project here. Why don't we test it? Let's try out the following values here. So I'm going to hit my green flag. We're going to get the 0 to be 2. We'll have 1, 2, -5, -6. We'll see as we calculate that 0 does come out as our remainder, and that happens so quickly. So maybe we need to put in a wait block here after it calculates. And let's run this one more time and see how that makes a difference. So we've got 2, 1, 2, -5, -6. Everything calculates here. We have a remainder of 0, so 2 is a factor of the polynomial. Now, one other piece I'm seeing here before we finish is if we come to my blocks and create a function called reset and put that right at the start. You'll see here I put this together. It's a little bit tedious. Uh-oh, disappeared. So with reset, what we need to do is we can come in here, and I'm not going to do this for all of the variables, but you sure can. It's sometimes nice at the start of your program to have your variables cleared out. So if I set this 0 to 0 and have all of these at 0 to start, it feels like we're starting our program over. So notice the difference as I hit the green flag. This piece is turned to 0. I could do this for all of my variables, and it just looks a little bit more reset here. Fabulous. I hope you enjoyed the video and that it helped you, and that you're able to find success for yourself as well as your students with this program. Best of luck.